we're going to cover the inspection of a 135 or 235 NT coupling. We're going to cover inspecting the coupling, the latch gap, and also the pintle for wear. So the first thing I'm going to cover is how to use the latch gap gauge. So this is our 3/8 latch gauge. It's part number 14026. So in order to inspect the coupling, we're going to find where the latch and pintle come together. So at its closest point, on this one it's going to be right in this area, and we're going to make sure that this gauge cannot fit through. If you do find that this gauge fits through here, you need to determine which component is damaged or worn. If it's just the pintle but the latch is okay, then you can only replace the coupling body. If it's both, you need to replace the entire assembly. But if this fits through, the coupling is out of service and needs to be replaced. Now for wear, this is a latch gauge set. This particular coupling is going to use gauge 14011. So as you can see, we have 0% wear area, 18% wear, which if it gets to this area, we recommend replacing it as soon as possible, and 20% if it's in there, it's out of service and you need to replace it before you use it. So we're going to take the gauge, insert it on the coupling. This part is new, so we have 0% wear, and just make sure that all throughout this wear region you inspect the coupling. If it goes into there, we recommend replacing it. And red, you have to replace it, out of service. So the other thing we want to do during the inspection, now this is a new part, but you want to inspect the entire coupling for cracks, any abnormal damage that's going to affect the operation of the coupling. So obviously you want to inspect in here. This is typically the highest stress area, but also on this one we're going to inspect these plates, just make sure nothing is damaged, just a kind of a visual inspection. The other thing is you want to make sure that this is tight to where there isn't an appreciable gap between these plastic wear bushings. If it is, you can just take the slack up by torquing the nut down. If you're noticing that these are worn significantly, then we recommend placing that. This is really provides lower friction between the components, also prevents this from wearing, so we're kind of using that as the wear plate, if you will. If you see that it's passed all that inspection, then we recommend, if you're not going to take the latch out, just use spray type lubricant and make sure you operate the pins so that you get it in there, and then wipe off any excess. Don't ever put grease or oil on this area of the coupling, especially because that provides kind of a bonding material for dirt, which will decrease the service life of the coupling. Back here we have grease zerks, so you don't need a whole lot of grease, but we're going to recommend you do this every 90 days on these zerks, and same with the latch components. Just make sure they're operating freely. If you feel any abnormal dragging, it feels like something is caught in there, it isn't a bad idea to take them apart and clean them if necessary, but usually just applying some lubricant, operating them, then wiping off the excess is good enough. We're going to cover the disassembly of a 235 NT or 135 NT. The parts you'll need for this are snap ring pliers. I'm going to use a flat tip screwdriver, but any pin that's smaller than 1/2 inch in diameter, just to help eject these pins. So we're going to start with removing the 132 latch and associated components. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the 144-75 snap ring from the 131 pin. We're going to take a screwdriver, just press on the pin until it exits the opposite side of the coupling. And we'll rotate the 133 back, remove the 132 and the 132A. And similar to what we did for the 132, we'll do for the 133. So we're going to start by removing the 275-50 snap ring from the 134 pin. Take a screwdriver, press the pin through the coupling until it exits the opposite side, and remove the 133 and 135A. And we're going to cover the assembly process for the 235 NT or 135 NT latch components. So this is the state the coupling would be in if we removed an older latch. So the first thing we're going to do is clean every hole and inspect every hole, make sure the holes are still round, make sure they're not worn excessively, they don't have any burrs that are going to keep the pins from going inside the hole or damage the pin if they do go inside the hole. Once you've cleaned and inspected the holes, we recommend applying a small amount of low temperature, high quality grease to each hole, then wipe off the excess for both the inside and the outside of the coupling. You don't need a whole lot of grease. And to start the assembly process, the first thing we're going to do is assemble the 133 latch lock. So to start that, we'll place a 275-50 snap ring on the 134 pin. Insert it into the side of the coupling. And next, we'll take the 135A torsion spring. And this torsion spring is going to go in the coupling just like this. Now the important step here is the leg of this torsion spring needs to rest on this spring stop inside the coupling. So when we place it in there, make sure the spring is up against the wall of the coupling and that leg is on the spring stop. We'll take the 133 latch lock and insert the 134B bushing. We're going to go in from the left side as I'm holding the part. That would be the driver's side of the vehicle. And we're going to apply a small amount of grease to the inside of this hole, wipe off any excess, and making sure the leg of that spring is correctly contacting that spring rest. We're going to place the 133 into the coupling. We'll align the hole in the 133 to the hole in the coupling, then insert the pin. Make sure that the torsion spring is applying adequate torque. If you release the 133, it should contact this portion of the coupling. Once you've validated that, we'll assemble the remaining 275-50 snap ring onto the 134 pin. Make sure that the snap ring is properly seated in the groove. Now we're going to assemble the 132. And the first step is we'll place a 144-75 snap ring onto the 131 pin, just one side. Make sure the snap ring is properly seated. And we'll place the pin into the left side or driver's side of the coupling. We'll take the 132A torsion spring, just set it on the pin, and the leg of this torsion spring should contact this boss up in the coupling. Take the 132 latch and install the 132B bushing from the right side of the part as shown, or this would be the passenger side of the vehicle. We'll apply a small amount of grease to the hole, make sure we wipe off any excess. And when we assemble the 132 latch, first we're going to rotate the 133 back, just so the what I'll call the ears of the coupling are assembled like that to the 133. Then we'll push the part in until we align the hole in the 132 latch to the coupling. And press the pin all the way through. We'll install the remaining 144-75 snap ring onto the 131 pin. And make sure it's properly seated in the groove. And we'll check the proper function of the latch components. So in order to operate this latch, we're going to rotate the 133 back, pull the 132 forward, release the 133, release the 132. The two components should stay there like this. You shouldn't, if you lightly tap these, it can do that, but really it should sit there so that when you connect and disconnect the part, it stays open. In order to close the latch, we'll rotate the 133 back, release the 132, release the 133, make sure it stays closed, and the assembly is complete.